see everybody tonight. We should get started. We've got a number of things to talk about tonight. So, Debbie, when you're ready, go ahead and begin the opening prayers.
All Mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. All Mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. All Mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. May all Mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all Mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. And may they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all Mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. So let's sit for a few minutes. And in your own way, relax, release, bring your mind home to present awareness. And when you reach that stable, focused, clear awareness, turn your mind inward and rest in the nature of mind without any manipulation, letting thoughts and emotions simply come and go.
Okay, thank you all for coming. Debbie, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Before we begin, is there anything that was left unsaid? Any thoughts that need to be expressed that we talked about last week when we were just talking about the Bardo Thodol in general, but most specifically about developing a practice based on the Bardo Thodol and how it has affected our lives, and being able to read it, recite it for someone who has passed. And so anybody have any thoughts, anything else that you'd like to say? Okay, very good.
Lance, could I just say that I listened to the recording since I wasn't able to be with you last week, and it was just so special to hear all of the wisdom shared by all of you, and it just, wow, what a mandala we've become. Bow to you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So what we're trying to do is to find a place of quietude. I think that word we've used that a few times now, and it's a very good word. And because it connotes, a peacefulness, it connotes a no worry, it connotes a very happy, satisfied place in our minds and so on. So in order for us to do that, we need to be able to recognize the things that would come up that might interfere with our quietude. And we're not suppressing those things. To have true quietude, we have to be victorious over being able to recognize the causes of those emotions, the thoughts that come up, and being able to liberate them, to be able to release those thoughts of causes and of actions that we might need to take. So we need to recognize this futility of our emotions. And when we begin to recognize the emotions as just, a human way of reacting to things, and not that we need to suppress that, but we need to channel it properly so that we don't fall into, the proverbial rabbit's hole of our emotions and so on, and our quietude gets lost. So this is important because when we're in the Bardo, and as we were talking about the past number of weeks when we were in part 3 and choosing a womb birth and how to block the womb birth, and then we have to choose a womb and so on like that, we need to be very conscious, aware that we are going to be born again. And when we're in meditation, that when we go through meditation and we go through what we call the completion stage, that there is this point when we realize, oh yes, I'm coming back into the state of my ordinary being and my everyday being, but I want to bring that meditation with me. I want to bring that quietude. I want to bring the merit along with me to be able to do that. So we need to cut through. We need to learn how to cut through all the attachments and all the aversions that we have with our emotions. So the thing that I think that we need to refresh our memories on is what it is to be a human being, and to look at it in an illustrative way, to look at the wheel of existence. So I prepared a little bit of a slideshow for us to be able to look at. So just give me a second. I forgot to cue it up, to be perfectly honest. So give me a second here. Okay, now it's ready. So I presume everybody can see this. Okay. So this is the wheel of existence. And if anybody has questions as I'm going through this, speak right up. Don't hesitate to say what you're thinking and so on like that. So this wheel of existence is an illustration. This is the classic illustration of the 6 realms of human existence. And we are in the clutches, humans are in the clutches of this Mara, of this demon. And this demon can be explained many different ways, but one general way is to say, this is our human ego. This is all the things that are causing us to be non-spiritual, to not recognize our interconnectedness with all things. So we see that there is a 6-segment wheel. There is this 12 links of interdependent origination, which is very profound, this outer ring here, if you can see my cursor going around. And that is a teaching all unto itself, and something that we do from time to time in Buddhism 101. If somebody would like to request a teaching on that, we can arrange that and do that. But tonight, I think the main emphasis is going to be here on the 6 realms of samsara. This is the wheel of existence, the wheel of samsara. So here it says samsara, the ocean of suffering. So the thing that has put us here is our karma, our actions. And this is the psychophysical drama of being a human being, the psychophysical drama. So this is the intellectual, emotional, body, physical thing that has been manifested that we are living in. So, and it's a result of our karma, result of our actions. the psychophysical drama. I think that that phrase really explains what is going on when we think of it, because all these 6 segments, these 6 realms are happening simultaneously in our lives. Now, they may be by question of degree, which is predominant, which is the least predominant, which is medium, which is, super medium, and so on. So these can be, you could think of it in terms of percentages, one's 70%, another one is 10%, another one is 5%, whatever numbers you want to make up. But it's not important to try and qualify it in that way, or I should say quantify it in that way. The important thing is to be able to qualify it in terms of what the emotions are, what is happening. So by looking at this, gives us a better example of what we go through on a daily basis, what our meditation is, and how we can guide someone who is passing, who we are reciting the Bardo Thodol for, because this is what they're headed to. So here, samsara is known as the temporary phenomenal world. So all this temporary phenomenal world. And nirvana is known as the liberation from the results of samsara. So samsara is like causes and conditions of our life, things that are happening here and so on. Then how we process that, what we do with that, determines whether this starts to become as nirvana, which is a transcendence of the attachments and the aversions and the other poisons that we develop, that we cultivate by being in samsara and not being aware of how we can liberate from that. So nirvana is the temporary liberation. It's not a permanent liberation. It is a temporary liberation. It's the other side of the hand of samsara. So, so we can fall backwards in nirvana. We may attain a state of quietude. We may be able to have that and maintain that for some period of time, but through circumstances, we can get pulled back. So it's part of the phenomenal world of samsara. So here is a closer look now of the wheel. And so here at the very top, this right up here, this is the realm of the Deva realm. This is the God realm. This realm over here, this is the god of the anti-gods or the jealous gods or the Asuras, the Titans. And then this over here, this would be the realm of the human beings. So these are the 3 higher realms here. And the 3 lower realms, that this at the very bottom would be the hell realms. And there's 16 cold hells and 16 hot hells, plus some neighboring hells. So it's a terrible place to be, and is the result of great aversion, hatred, aggression, and so on. Then this over here, this is the hungry ghost realm, or the preta realm. These are the miserable beings that are over here. And then this over here, this would be the animal realm, and this would be the realm of ignorance. It looks beautiful, a very natural, bucolic kind of a scene, but we know that the existence of animals is fraught with great ignorance and so on. So then the hub we're going to get to. So here is the center hub. And so here we see a pig. Here is a pig. Then there is a rooster. And then there is a snake. So these have the tail of the one in front in the mouth of each of these 3 animals. And so that their tail is in the mouth of the one behind them. So if we start off with the pig represents ignorance. And then in his mouth is the rooster, who represents attachment, desire. And then the snake represents aggression, hatred. So this center hub is like the axis on which all this is turning. We can say that ignorance is the greatest of these poisons, the greatest of these emotions, the greatest of these states of mind. And then immediately following are attachment and aggression. Actually, they would all be interconnected with each other. And then we talked about the 5 poisons would be the ignorance, the attachment, the aggression, and that would also be the greed or pride, and the jealousy or envy would also be involved with this. But here we're talking about these 3 main non-virtues. Then here in this outer ring, this outer center ring, we see that there's this white portion and there is this black portion. And we see beings who seem to be following a yogi, seem to be following a spiritual path. While here in the black part, they seem to be the dynamic of our dualistic life, and how easy it is for us, how natural it is for us to fall into this duality. But by being aware of what is happening allows us to be able to develop the liberation from the attachments and the aversions that are causing this ascension and are causing this descension. So here we're talking about the hub ring, dualistic nature, ascending and descending. So this is all part of the awareness that we have to make ourselves open to. So the 3 lower realms are expressed again as the hells, the hungry ghost realm, and the animal realm. So here we see the hell realms, and the cause of being in these hell realms is hatred. That through hatred, through aggression, through non-virtue of anger, that we put ourselves into this realm of hell. And whether or not, it's a literal hell or it is a psychophysical hell, one that we put ourselves in through having done certain deeds, but those deeds are sort of like haunting us or following us like demons, or they're haunting us like ghosts, something like that. It's not literal, but it is something that begins to be a huge weight on our lives and is pulling us down into these hellish existences full of fear and full of confusion. And we go through being born and then dying a terrible death and then being reborn again, only to die a terrible death over and over and over again. That has to do with the cause of our being in the hell. So in other words, a very gross way of saying this is, if you were to kill somebody with a gun, then in this hell, you may be being shot by a gun over and over and over again. You revive yourself, but then being shot again. So maybe it's sometimes we say if you're being stabbed by a knife or something like that, you're killing somebody with that you are constantly being stabbed with a knife as your death, and then being reborn here in the hell realm over and over and again, going over in this and so on. So in the Jewel Ornament of Liberation and other books, they go into a great deal of detail about the hell realms as well as all these other realms. But for right now, it's just a matter of remembering what this is and being able to keep this in our awareness as we are moving through our meditation practices and so on, to get to our quietude. So here in this realm here, this would be the greed. This would be the hungry ghost realm. And the hungry ghosts, they're characterized as being very rotund, very big and fat, very long, very short legs, very short arms, very long neck, and very small mouth. so they can never satisfy themselves. And this greed is indicative of this constant accumulating things, wanting things, and not being satisfied with whatever they have. It's like drinking salty water. You can never quench your thirst by drinking salty water. So a pride can develop out of this greed, that we're so prideful that we have these things, whatever it might be, power or material things or money in the bank, so many different things that it could be. So this is the hungry ghost realm. And then over here is the animal realm. And here we enter into the animal realm through our ignorance, through our not realizing what is going on and not exercising any control or feeling like we have no control. Remember, this is the psychophysical drama of human beings. So beings are acting like animals and just going through the very base needs that they might have, the very base physical needs that they have, and not thinking about any of the consequences of what it takes to gather those things, or what it is to be subject to them without recognizing what they are and what harm they can do for us, that they cause great suffering to us. So it's like an enslavement. Animals are very easily enslaved, and we know that human beings can be very easily enslaved too. So this realm of the animals indicates that, shows us that. Then the three higher realms are the God realm, the jealous gods, and the human realm. So here is the prideful God realm, and here is the jealous gods, and here are the desire beings, human beings, the human realm here. So in the God realm, these are beings that have great wisdom, but no ability to have compassion. They're so enamored with their own pleasures that they are not aware of the suffering of others. The jealousy is in constant conflict. These are gods, very powerful, who are able to capture the imaginations of many people who support them. But they have great skillful means, but very poor wisdom. So they may take themselves and take others on a journey that is very, very selfish for themselves. Here is this tree. You see this tree that kind of bridges over between the God realm, the Deva realm, and the jealous God realm here. And so these jealous gods, they want to be God. They want to be the Devas. They want to be the gods, and they are trying to wage a battle with the gods in the God realm. The gods don't even pay attention to them, and so all the slings and arrows that are cast by the jealous gods never reach the gods. But nevertheless, that's what they're trying to do, because they want to be those gods. In the desire realm, the human realm, we have the ability, human beings have the ability to recognize all these 6 realms within themselves as the psychophysical drama. And the unique thing about the desire realm, the human realm, is that we can change. We can change our attitudes. We can change the way in which we live. We can change from being non-virtuous at any level to becoming virtuous. And we can find ways, method to be able to actualize, manifest, and stabilize this quietude. So this desire is an extreme of being able to say that we have the attachments for lust and for all these different things to be able to do this. And our desire can overcome our balance with all of this. We can develop a pridefulness of our ability to be able to change. So we have to be very careful that being a human being means always reevaluating, that we can't rest on our laurels. Things will change, circumstances will change, and we will fall. We may be in a state of nirvana, thinking where we have transcended that suffering, but it is only temporary and can be pulled back through our attachments, through our aversions, through these other emotions and so on. So we're looking at the wheel again, and I sent you these pictures. Maybe you can print these. So here's a little bit more detail. The God's realm, being in the God realm, enjoy long and very pleasurable lives. They are adored and venerated by their worshipers. They have great pride, and they have wisdom, great wisdom, but no ability to actualize compassion. So the jealous God realm, the beings in the jealous God realm have great ability to influence humans. They are powerful and persuasive, but they have very little wisdom, and they wage great battles. Their suffering is due to conflict and jealousy between each other, and they're being able to overcome other beings in the realms and try and conquer the gods. The human realm, human beings suffer from desire. They clasp and cling to the body and all forms of adornment. They grasp at objects and power. However, humans, they have an intelligent mind. They can change themselves in their environment. They can recognize objects and perceive causes and results. So this is the work that we are doing on the Dharma path, is to recognize these causes of our karma and be able to guide those causes, or be able to allow those causes to be overcome, to be satisfied, whatever it takes in whatever given situation, to be able to neutralize those causes and thereby neutralize our karma, and so that our results become quietude. In the animal realm, animal beings suffer due to their ignorance. They have no ability to change their lives or their environment. Some animals have a higher degree of intelligence than others, but generally speaking, we can say that they're not building any bridges, they're not building any homes or anything like that that can significantly change their lives. We see that many animals are able to use tools, and so our view of animals has changed over the years, but they certainly are not in the same category as being a human being. In the hungry ghost realm, the hungry ghosts think of finding food, only of finding food and drink. Their suffering is the result of greed. So they are miserable from their miserliness, that they do not want to share anything. The finding food and drink is just a metaphor for saying power, that they are looking for more material things, looking for more power. They want a better position at work, and they won't share what they have learned to help other people progress and so on. So this is the hungry ghost realm. And then in the hell realms, all the hell realms, the experience is one of sheer and constant suffering of death resulting from hatred. So these hells being tortured by these demons, the demons within ourselves, not exterior to ourselves, they are within ourselves. And so once we recognize that and be able to ameliorate what it is that they are trying to protect us from, because that's really what they're trying to do. It's a non-virtuous protection that contaminates us and causes us to suffer greatly in these hell realms. So we need to understand this. We need to understand the psychophysical trauma that we go through, that we have been subjected to by being human beings. So how can the beings of the six realms be liberated? Through peace and transcendence. This is what we are seeking, peace and transcendence. So this quietude, this being able to transcend the ocean of suffering, to be able to transcend the duality of nirvana and samsara, to be able to transcend that and to be able to stabilize that into to become as a Buddha. And on the pathway, we become bodhisattva and so on. But our goal is to become an awakened one. And we go through stages of awakening as we do that. So to help us in each one of these realms, let me go back to this picture here. So if we notice in each one of these six realms is a Buddha. So here is a Buddha seated in this vestibule here. Here is a Buddha in another vestibule right here. Here is the Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, who is seated on the ground right here. And then here in the animal, here is a Buddha right here. And then in the hungry ghost, there is a Buddha right here. And here in the hell realms is a Buddha right here. So now we'll look at the meaning of those Buddhas. So in the hell beings, the hell realm beings who are suffering intense suffering, a painful death, it is the peace of love and kindness that will overcome, that will save them, that will be the moment that they will able to free themselves from their intense suffering of pain and death and realize that there is love, that there is kindness, and that they have the power to be able to cultivate that. So the Buddha being here is holding, in his right hand, he's holding a flame. And in his left hand, he's holding a conch shell that is full of ice or very, very cold water here. So those beings in the hell realm that are in the hot hells will be satisfied for a moment with this ice. And those that are in the cold hells will be satisfied with this fire for a moment, long enough to recognize that there is a Buddha, that there is a spirituality, that there is a way out. So this Buddha sage, a sage is a teacher. So this awakened sage, his name is Yama Dhamaraja. So we mentioned this, when we were talking about the Bardo Thodol, but this needs to be stabilized a little bit more in our minds as we move into the next phase of looking at our daily practice. So that's why we're repeating this. The hungry ghost realm beings, they are suffering intense suffering of greedy miserliness, but it's through the peace of generosity that they are able to overcome their miserliness, overcome their greediness. So this Buddha sage, Svalamukha, here is holding a vase, and this vase has wealth in it. There's a vase of wealth that is being able to that the beings that he is offering to the hungry ghosts, so that they will have this resource of generosity, that no matter what they have, they will never run out of it, and that whatever they give, they will come back to them, that they never lose it, that there is this sense of equality through all of this, and that there's no point in being able to hold on and be miserly or be greedy through our generosity. So then this next slide is the animal realm beings who are suffering intense suffering of ignorance, and through the peace of education. So we see that Buddha sage Simha is holding a book, this book right here, and represents education. that through for animals to be able to overcome their ignorance, for human beings who behave like animals can overcome that through education, through being able to recognize their predicament, recognize the causes and conditions for that, and to be able to stabilize now a virtuous lifestyle for themselves. So, so this is symbolized by the book. Then in the God realm beings, there is intense suffering of pride. And so the way through this pride is the peace of compassion. So this pridefulness comes from having done great deeds, having been able to amass great wisdom, but yet not have the skillful means, not have the compassion to be able to help other beings. They selfishly are just reveling in their own grandeur. And so to help them to recognize their compassion, that there is compassion, the Buddha sage Indrasaka here is playing a musical instrument, which is showing that not only is the music beautiful, but it is heartfelt. The suffering that it took to be able to compose the music, and the suffering that it took to be able to be a musician, to be able to master and play this instrument with such beauty, brings compassion, shows the compassion to the gods. So this musical instrument could also be a metaphor for other arts, drawing arts, illustrative arts, and so on like that, dance, many other different forms of this work can be able to be used to show compassion, the suffering that beings have gone to be able to show the gods that they are suffering from pride. And the next one is the jealous God realm beings, and they are suffering intense suffering of conflict. And so to overcome this, they reach the peace of accomplishment. So here, the Buddha sage Vimasitra is holding, in one hand, he's holding a shield. This looks like a parasol or something like that. It's a shield to protect him from the conflict of the other jealous gods. And then he's holding the wisdom sword, the flaming wisdom sword that helps to cut through the duality, to allow him to recognize the wisdom and the skillful means. So this is not a sword to annihilate other beings, but is to be able to annihilate their unawareness of their conflict, the causes of their conflict. So this is protection, and this is cutting through. So through this, the piece of accomplishment of saying that, to recognize what it is that you have been able to do, and be able to then share that, to be able to open that up and not use that as a source of selfishness and conflict with others, that to be satisfied with what we have. And then the human being realm is the intense suffering of desire and the peace of letting go meditation, the peace of letting go meditation. So this desire, our clinging on to things, our grasping onto things, our wanting more of these things and so on, is being liberated, showing how to liberate this through the Buddha sage Shakyamuni. So this is the Buddha Shakyamuni. This is the historical Buddha that we all always talk about, who has given us the Dharma teachings. So here in his left hand, he's holding the mendicant's the mendicant's bowl, this offering bowl that is full of Dharma, the Dharma teachings, the Dharma awareness, the Dharma being able to guide us. So this is the vehicle that the Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, has used to be able to communicate to us how to attain this meditation, this peace of letting go, this meditation. This staff here is like a staff that jingles, and it's so that it does not, so that as the Buddha Shakyamuni moves about on the planet Earth, that he does not cause any suffering, does not cause suffering of other beings, that his goodness and his virtue is showing beings how to liberate themselves, but in the process, he's not causing suffering for other beings. So as he walks about, he may be stepping on other beings that are invisible to us, that are in the grass or in the roads or whatever. And so this jingling staff here warns them, lets them know that to get out of the way, to let them know that someone is coming, and so that he does not harm those beings. So it's an awareness that there is a possibility of harming other beings. So as a review, we look at that there are 5 poisons: the ignorance, the desire, the hatred, the jealousy, the greed, and the pride. So, excuse me, that's 6. So here the pride and the greed often go together like that. And when we talk about 5, the antidotes are the education of ignorance, the Dharma meditation of desire to overcome desire, loving kindness that overcomes hatred, accomplishment overcomes jealousy, and generosity overcomes greediness, and compassion overcomes pride. So this is samsara, the ocean of suffering. This is Mara, the demon of grasping. And so this is a short review to help us to understand what it is that we are involved with, to remember this. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Yes, Jerry.
This is the first time I've come to realization that even to ascend to a higher level, these gods have deficiencies also. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Not the Buddhas, but the gods. Not what we call gods. Now, this is not to be confused with, many people have a belief, have a faith in a supreme being. So, we don't know, we say, we haven't had, that contact that we can say for sure, about a supreme being. But these gods are like the gods of the weather, the gods of riches, the gods of fertility, all these different gods and so on.
Okay. I hope they have wear something on their body so we can make the difference between whether they're a god or a Buddha.
Well, I think by getting to know them is the best way.
Like the military, you got to salute all the officers.
Treat everybody as if they're a Buddha.
That's a good idea.
But question their authority. I don't think the Buddha would argue that point at all. Yes, Louisa.
I have a few comments, one comment and a question. The comment is, I got to put in a good word for animals. Some animals are so much smarter and so much more devoted and compassionate than some human beings. I have found that in my life. Especially beavers, they build their own homes, and birds build their own nest. They may not stay there for very long, but the bald eagle, he stays faithful to one mate all their lives until they die. And they keep going back and forth in their lifetime to their nest every single year. So even though they don't have tools like we know and have tools, they build their homes, these animals build their homes from things that they find out in the environment. So I got to put in a good word for those for some animals. My next, and this is the question, can you talk more about what you mean by temporary phenomenal for nirvana? Is that temporary while we are still here and in this physical form? Or what does that mean?
Yes. Remember, this is all part of the psychophysical drama of being a human being. So it's all symbolic. So the ocean of suffering, samsara, is everything, we're not aware, we're ignorant, we're going through this hatred, all these things and so on. But in this life, we may be able to, through the antidotes of those poisons, those emotions, we may be able to transcend to a level where we have reached this quietude, this balance, this happiness that is very, very, very good and seems very stable. But it is subject to change. And it's all part of this phenomenal nature. So nirvana, as is being defined here, is the other side of the hand of samsara, which is temporary. When we talk about that, when we die and we go to nirvana, then that would be, many books, would say just nirvana, but some other books would say a pari-nirvana, P-A-R-I. And we talked about that a few weeks ago. And the pari-nirvana is not to return. This would be a being who goes through the Bardo of death into the Bardo of reality, where the peaceful and the wrathful deities are, and would be liberated in that Bardo, not to return as an ordinary human being. So that would be a difference, and that would be referred to as a pari-nirvana, that someone has gone to a pari-nirvana. So the phenomenal nature, the essence of phenomenal nature, is the impermanence and the duality, the dualistic nature of phenomenal nature. So even the samsara and the nirvana are part of that phenomenal dualistic nature. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And I know, to stabilize that, I think requires some contemplation and sometimes some meditation, and to have the experience of recognizing that. So, if these things fade, we're talking about this now, but, tomorrow it may seem like a dream, this whole conversation. However, if we have been able to stabilize, if we have had experience, if we have had realization of these very things that we're talking about, it doesn't fade. It's always there. It may not be what's right on top, but we can stop for a moment and we can bring it right up. We can raise its priority to our awareness. So that's a difference, and that can become an indicator of where we think we are, how much work we think we've done, and how much more work we need to do, and so on. Okay, did somebody else have a comment or question?
I do. Just two quick things came to mind, Lance, when you were describing this so beautifully, with the Buddha sages present in each of the 6 realms and showing that compassion is there always. I was reminded of something Garchen Rinpoche said that just really struck me about the hell realms. And I'm sure others here might remember this too. He said, think of them not as a place of punishment, but like an emergency room. And if you go to an emergency room, It's a pretty scary place. There are a lot of very strong medical interventions going on and a lot of suffering, but it's all there out of compassion and it's all there to help. And that just really transformed the way I thought about the hell realms. Not that I want to go there. And the other thing is the desire in the human realm. I don't know where I heard this, but it was once described as the desire for things to be different, that we're just constantly dissatisfied, that dukkha, that dissatisfaction, that's the starting point of the Four Noble Truths. And so that just came to mind again, that we're just tormented as humans by that desire for things always to be different than they are, even when they're good.
So isn't that the hungry ghost realm?
Well, it was described as human, but it sure has hungry
Well-
ghost aspects.
Well, you got to remember that these
Yeah.
these 6 realms are all part of the psyche, the physical,
Yeah.
psychophysical of a human being.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what it is to be a human being.
And like you say, they're all there at the same time, just at different degrees and constantly
Right.
changing.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's an important breakthrough, to recognize that, to realize that, and be able to see that in yourself. And, when you get angry,
Yeah.
or if you get prideful about something, or you get
Mhm.
selfish about something, yes,
Mhm.
and it's amazing because no matter who we think we are and the
Mhm.
accomplishments we think we've made, we're going to slip up somewhere, or we're
Mhm.
likely to, and we'll see that through our habitual tendencies. That's what we talked about. The Vidyadhara, the hero awareness holders, helps us to recognize that and to dance with that.
Yes.
So all this all comes together with the Bardo Thodol.
Mhm. It sure does.
Yes, thank you. Michael, did you have something? Yes, you got your hand up.
Yes. Yeah, I appreciate Debbie's recent contribution. I think that a lot of dualities and spectrums and continuums and polarities and conflicts and tensions are really well represented in this wheel. And I think a lot of what we consider pathology or disorder or pain and suffering is an example of us having a foot in each domain. So we can definitely, we can be sitting straddle a membrane. We can be sitting on the fence between any two of these at any given time, and have our nature and our experience of the world be pulled and pushed in a variety of ways by all of these sorts of drives and impulses. So it's really, I like the idea of appreciating it as a sort of a very active domain, a really vital and constantly shifting space, much like our human identities.
Thank you. Yes. When we sit down to meditate, sometimes, we are overwhelmed with things that have been happening to us. And we need to sort that out before we can really get to our meditation, to the practice and so on. So it's very helpful, to be able to say, well, what am I thinking about? What is this? And write down what it is and try and identify the emotions and try and identify it as part of the 6 realms and say, oh, here's where it is. And to be able to see that, to be able to recognize that, and then be able to work with the antidotes that we have to be able to overcome it, so that when we go into our meditation phase and come out of the meditation phase, now we're coming out in that quietude. We're coming out in that balanced mindset, if you will. And so, when we're reciting this for someone who is dying, we're trying to explain this to them, that they need to make choices and they need to be aware of this, that this is the world in which they are coming into, and so on. So it's all through our heart. The words we say, is just helping us more than, it's not helping them. What's helping them is what's in our heart, what is going out from our heart into their heart. If we are communicating hatred or ignorance or anything else, that's what they receive. That's what they see. So we need to be able to really be pure when we recite these prayers and recite the Bardo Thodol for someone who has passed. So again, our meditation practice has built in all the tools that we need for us to purify ourselves as we are sitting on the cushion in each and every one of our meditation contemplation sessions that we do. That's the proper way. That's what we're trying to do. Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay. Well, then everybody is familiar, I think, enough with the root verses of the 6 intermediate states on page 1. We've read that many times. And then the natural liberation of habitual tendencies, the 10-branch prayer, and the purification. So you would begin your sessions, and I'm talking now about a personal meditation session that you're having at home or wherever you choose to do your practice meditation. So someone doesn't have to be deceased to do this. This is how we are developing our stabilization of the Bardo Thodol teachings. So we would then recite the 10-branch prayer and the purification mantra. We would recite that. And then we come to page 17. Does anybody have any questions about any of the introductory parts for this practice that we would do? Okay. And I'm on page 17. We're not going to get through this, of course, tonight. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I assume it's going to take several weeks or months. So now we begin with the natural liberation of the habitual tendencies. These are the things that we are often blind to within ourselves, the way in which we operate every day, and we take for granted that it's virtuous, that we're good people, but there are things that are hidden there that are showing us our selfishness, showing us our greediness, et cetera, et cetera. So it says, having thus purified the 2 obscurations. So the 2 obscurations are fundamental ignorance of dualistic nature and the dissonant mental states, or the kleshas. So the dissonant mental states are the emotional states, the kleshas. That's a Sanskrit word. It means the dissonant mental states. So if you remember, I at one point I sent a card to you or emailed it that had the 26 mental dissonant states. I got a copy of it here somewhere. But anyway, you should have that, and it should be available to you to be able to reflect upon. So the dissonant mental states, the kleshas, these are the results of our karma. And then the fundamental ignorance, dualistic nature, is that we are clinging to ourselves. We're clinging to our bodhisattva selves to say, I need to be a bodhisattva for the benefit of other beings. And that can be a trap, because that's what's blocking us from releasing our dualistic nature and becoming Buddha. because becoming Buddha is non-dual. Bodhisattva is very dual. So we justify that by being able to say, I'm doing it for the benefit of other beings. And maybe that's what we need to do. You know, as we progress along the path, we go through that. But there comes a time when on the progression to be a Buddha that we have to let that go. So we do that figuratively through our arrogance over and over and over again. You know, as we are progressing along our meditations, as we're progressing along our teachings, we're developing, you know, these awarenesses, we're developing these skills and so on like that. And it's very easy to become arrogant with those. So we need to be very careful with that. So we read about that, we recited that in the Bardo Thodol. So this continues on. And this is like the final obscuration of Buddhahood. The blockage of Buddhahood is our attachment to our dualistic nature, that I'm doing this for the benefit of other beings. Not that we're doing it selfishly, but that we become that wisdom. We become that light. We become the Buddha. We become the awareness. We become the enlightenment. All that we become that with no turning back. There's no dualism involved. So that needs to be experienced. Okay, so back to the instruction here. Having thus purified the two obscurations, one should visualize the assembled peaceful and wrathful deities of the 100 sacred enlightened families as a mandala of deities within one's own body and pray. It is in this context that the aspirational prayers of the intermediate states are recited. The combined practice is as follows. So if you look on page 17 on the right side is the image of the 42 peaceful deities. So that would be part of that visualization, that is all within us. We have to go a little further along, but there is an image of the wrathful deities. It would have been smart to have that printed on there. So if you look at page, Roman numeral 2, the second page of the table of contents, you'll see on the left side, you'll see the image of the wrathful deities. So hopefully you've got those images handy. Maybe you printed them. If you need something printed, you want me mailed to you, I'll do that if you request. But to have this, to be stable in this is the point. To recognize that all this is within ourselves. So then, back to the text. Then, maintaining the recognition of oneself as Vajrasattva in the celestial palace of one's own precious heart, one clearly discerns a seminal point formed of the 5 lights, whose nature is the 5 pure essences of the 5 elements. So we see Vajrasattva is on the left side of this page 17. So in the heart center are the peaceful deities. In the brain center are the wrathful deities. And in the speech center are the speech deities, the Vidyadhara, the habitual tendency. These are the emotion. This is the subtle obscurations, subtle mental obscurations. And then these are the habitual tendencies. So one's own precious heart. This is all within ourselves and our heart center. And one clearly discerns a seminal point formed of the 5 lights, whose nature are the 5 pure essences of the 5 elements. So the 5 elements, we should know as water, earth, fire, wind, and space. So as we look at now the picture on page 16, we look at on the left side, we see us as a yogi or a yogini, a practitioner who is visualizing the 5 Buddhas there, which are Vajrasattva, in the 5 Buddha families. So Vajrasattva is the conduit that we are moving through to visualize all this. This is why we do the Vajrasattva purification that we do on page 14 or wherever that is here on page, yes, 14. So Vajrasattva is our avatar, if you will, moving through all this. And we're visualizing that. The 5 lights, so the 5 Buddha lights. So you should remember that each of those 5 families each had a light. White light, blue light, green light, yellow light, red light. Clear light, altogether clear light. So then, back to the text, it says, and from this, the 36 peaceful Buddhas radiantly manifest. Amidst a radiant and vibrant mandala suffused by the 5 pristine cognitions. Their bodies composed of 5 lights, the unimpeded union of emptiness and radiance. Seated upon a tier of lotus, sun, and moon cushions, supported by lion, elephant, horse, peacock, and circumsavika thrones. So we're visualizing all this now should be like a mnemonic. As soon as we see this, as soon as we think of this, all of a sudden this stuff just springs into our vision, into our mindset, into our heart center. We should be recognizing this. So the the animals are on the page 18 on the right side. So you can see that. And then we see on the left side of page 18 is Buddha Samantabhadra with his consort. Samantabhadri. Samantabhadra is the male and Samantabhadri is the female. So they are in union. So they are non-dual. The unimpeded union of emptiness and radiance. The emptiness is that all this is all part of our mind. All this just has appearances. All this is just fabrications. You know, they're all temporary. They're not real in the sense that they are permanent. They're real in a temporary sense, but in an ultimate sense, they are just temporary. We're just passing through. And what that is passing through is that radiance. That radiance is there. That radiance is like the wisdom. What this means. So it's the unimpeded union of emptiness and radiance. That radiance would be like compassion. Another way of saying compassion. The sun is burning all this energy and creating all this radiance, all this light. And we are the beneficiaries of that light. The radiance of that. So this emptiness is in the midst of all this radiance. So we need to be able to recognize that. That is part of this unimpeded union of emptiness and radiance. So this is all part of the phenomenal nature that issues forth from the Dharmakaya, from the non-dual, unelaborated state. So then we say Om Ahong in the body, the speech, and the mind. Within the expanse of a seminal point located at the center of one's heart, the primordial Lord the unchanging Buddha body of light, Samantabhadra, the Buddha body of reality, blue in color, and Samantabhadri, the expanse of reality, white in color, are indivisibly united, both in the posture of meditative equipoise, seated upon lotus, sun, and moon cushions, symbolizing the union of radiance and emptiness. So they are in this quietude. They are the quietude. So we should aspire to be this figure of Samantabhadra and Samantabhadri in our heart center.
I just love that paragraph. It's just such a beautiful description.
Very good. Thank you. So now to page 19. To you, the supreme ancestors of the Buddhas of past, present, and future, I bow down, make offerings, take refuge, and pray. So the supreme ancestors of the Buddhas. So the Buddhas are, remember, human beings who have progressed along this path to become thus gone ones, to become the Tathagata, to become these great beings who have achieved parinirvana. However, what they have become is the essence of this Buddha, of the Buddhas of the past, present, and future, this timelessness of what we call this awakened state, of what we call this absolute nature, this space that we have no words for, that is non-conceptual. So the supreme ancestors of the Buddha's past, present, and future. So then we recite this prayer. As soon as we, the deceased, die and begin to transmigrate, at that very moment, when the pure inner radiance of reality dawns, may we, the deceased, be welcomed by the Father, Samantabhadra, before us. May we, the deceased, be supported by the Mother, Samantabhadri, behind us. And thus encircled, may we, the deceased, be guided to the indivisible level of Samantabhadra, the 16th Buddha level, the level of unsurpassed pristine cognition. So here is a number of things that are being said. First off, we're saying this is our practice. So we're saying we, but we're also mindful of the deceased. So we, the deceased, and begin to transmigrate at that moment, the pure inner radiance of reality dawns. So it's like recognizing that you are the sun and that this radiance is color coming forth. I just saw this film, and there was this quote there that was so great, from the great Muslim Islamic writer, Rumi. Is anybody? He was a Sufi writer, and he said, have you seen the light yet? That is the light that lights the world. Have you seen that you are the light? Wait a minute, give me a second here. I want to say it properly. Don't you know yet? It is your light that lights the world. It is our mind that illuminates all of this. It is our mind that gives meaning to all of this. We are the light of the world, and we make this world what we want it to be. Is it a hellish place? Is it a place of misery of the hungry ghosts? Is it a place of ignorance of the animals? Is it a place of the gods and their unawareness of suffering? Is it the world of hungry of the titans, of the jealous gods? Or is it a human realm full of confusion and desire? We are the light. We make it what we want it to be, what we need it to be. Don't you know that it's your responsibility that you are the creator of this? So the pure radiance of reality dawns, and we, the deceased, be welcomed by the Father, Samantabhadra, and supported by the Mother, Samantabhadri. That pulling us is Samantabhadra, and having our back is Samantabhadri, the Mother. Encircled in this way, may we be guided to the indivisible level of Samantabhadra, the 16th Buddha level, the level of unsurpassed pristine cognition. Pristine cognition is the clear light, that non-conceptual state, that pristine cognition. So here it calls out 16th level. What can that mean? Does that mean a dimension? We're in the 3 dimensions. What about the 4th, 5th, 6th, and so on like that? Are these other dimensions that we experience through our meditation process, our process of purification to get to this? Do we go through the 3rd level, the 4th level, the 5th level, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And the answer is yes. And it's through the Dharma that we learn how to identify that, to be able to recognize that, to be able to see that, only to let it go, to say, okay, this is what I'm doing. I can see my progress, but meanwhile, all this just becomes liberated in the end. We liberate it as we go.
Hey, Lance?
Yes, sir.
On a somewhat of a side note, I think it's kind of interesting that in our WhatsApp DDSC 101 group, you've got that quote by Rumi, and it's sitting right above a beautiful photo of sunrise on a river that William and Bhavani posted. It's like they're a pair.
Yes. Yeah, we should send that to the Bardo Thodol group. Yeah, so it's bringing all the dualities together into non-duality. Okay, so then we say Om Ahom. So now at the bottom of page 19. Om Ahom. In the center channel of one's heart is Varanchana in blissful union with Datvishvari, white, radiant, holding a wheel and a bell, seated cross-legged, symbolizing the union of radiance and emptiness. Amidst the mass of light, radiating the pristine cognition of reality's expanse. So that image is on the right side of page 19, Varanchana and his consort Datvishvari. So this represents all-pervading wisdom. All-pervading wisdom. So you can go back to the book and you can go back to the notes that we've had and the things that I've sent you, and you should be able to build this mandala. You're building this image in your heart mind of what this is. This is all within us, each one of us. This is what we're trying to do. So then page 20. To you, the principal deities of the central Buddha family, I bow down, make offerings, take refuge and pray. As soon as we, the deceased, die and begin to transmigrate, at that very moment, when the visions of the intermediate state of reality dawn, and we, the deceased, roam alone in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated delusion, may the transcendent Lord Varanchana draw us forward, leading us on the path of radiant blue light, which is the pristine cognition of reality's expanse. May the Supreme Consort, Akasa Datvishvari, support us from behind. And thus encircled, may we, the deceased, be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. So if we look at the picture that Michael has on the screen, his picture there, this is a picture of the 5 Buddha mandala. the five Buddha family mandala. So in the center, you see the white. That's Varanchana. That's what we're talking about. And that's the all-pervading wisdom that is connected invariably to all the others because it is the center portion. And you got to think of this as a three-dimensional mandala. You know, it has height to it. So from the very top all the way to the very bottom is the center pole, if you will, this white pole that is this all-pervading wisdom. And then in the east would be the blue section. You see that blue quadrant at the bottom of the wheel. And then to the left would be the yellow, and that would be the south. And then up top, opposite the blue would be the red, and that would be the west. And then the green would be the north. So this is the mandala of the five Buddha families. So here it's making the point that that if we don't have a clear understanding, if we have a delusion about what this is, if we have a concocted story of what this means, that it skews everything else. Because here in this center position, it influences everything else. That's why the ignorance is the most important, the most significant of the five poisons to recognize and understand that all this thing falls under ignorance or falls into ignorance. Okay, then we move to the next on page 20, the bottom. It says Om Ah Hung. In the eastern channel branch of one's heart is Vajrasattva Ascobia in blissful union with Buddha Lakkhana, blue and radiant, holding a Vajra and bell, seated cross-legged, symbolizing the union of radiance and emptiness amidst a mass of light, radiating the mirror-like pristine cognition. To the right is the white Kasiti Garba, holding a seedling and a bell. To the left is the white Maitreya, holding a blossoming orange bush and a bell. To the front is white Lasya, holding a mirror and a bell. And to the rear is white Pushpa, holding a flower and seated with one leg extended and the other drawn in. So this is going back to when we were in the second part of the Bardo Thodol, and we were in the Bardo of reality, and we were meeting the peaceful deities. So here, this is a review of that, and visualizing the spiritual sons and the spiritual daughters, the female bodhisattvas and the male bodhisattvas. Here are all characterized. So this should help you to make that association, to make that visualization. And this is radiating the mirror-like pristine cognition, the clear light of recognizing the mirror-like nature of things, of appearances, that they are appearances. It's like looking into a mirror. They are only apparitions. They are only figments of our imagination, of a temporariness of what seems to be permanent. So when we look at everything as appearances, when we look at ourselves as appearances, then the next step is to be able to see the emptiness of our true nature. That we have contrived these conventions to be able to say, well, this is a body, and this is a table, and this is the color red, and all these different things that we agree upon. But it's all temporary stuff that does not inherently exist. It is all composite, made up of other things. So this mirror-like pristine cognition is the clarity of recognizing those appearances as temporary within our temporary mind. So then the prayer, it says, to you, the sixfold principle and encircling deities of the Vajra family. So the six would be the four bodhisattvas and the mother and father figure. I bow down, make offerings, take refuge and pray. As soon as we, the deceased, die and begin to transmigrate, at that very moment, when the visions of the intermediate state of reality dawn, and we, the deceased, roam alone in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated aversion, may the transcendent Lord Vajrasattva Ascobia draw us forward, leading us on the path of radiant white light, which is the mirror-like pristine cognition. May the Supreme Consort, Buddha Lakkhana, support us from behind, and thus encircled may we be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. So we feel the Buddha Ascobia pulling us. We feel Lakkhana at our back, but we also have the sense of our brothers and sister bodhisattvas that are on our sides. Yes, Curtis. Your microphone is off.
Sorry. I know you've told us very times. I just want to confirm something I'm trying to keep straight. In the preceding section on Vairocana, it talked about delusion and the pristine cognition of reality's expanse. In this one, it talks about aversion and the mirror-like pristine condition. These are the same linkages you pointed to us to before, I believe.
Correct. Yeah, so the Vajra family, Ascobia, the mirror-like wisdom is overcoming hatred, anger, aggression. Does it with loving kindness, grace. So yeah, so all the information is in the Bardo Thodol, is in all the information that we've shared. So now, like I said, it's a matter of assembling all this in a way that you can understand. You know?
They always line up thus, don't they? There really isn't, it isn't like they get scrambled in other formulations of the five Buddha families.
Well, in different practices, there could be some variations on this, but in this practice, you know, this is the central, this is the main visualization, if you will, you know. But there are other practices, other visionaries who wrote practices that may have swapped a couple things, but the basic elements are all there. It's all the same.
A question for you about this. Correct me, I don't think I'm going to say it right, but I'm trying to figure something out. If one is, if one's experience of emptiness is profound enough, these emotions rise, the aversion or the ignorance, they rise, but they don't dilute us and they dissolve back into these particular wisdoms. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, we say we bring those emotions onto the path. So as we bring them onto the path, then they are mixed with the virtue of the wisdom and the skillful means, and they dissolve together, like you just said. They dissolve together, but it does it by being on the path. It's not suppressing them. It's not putting them away. It's bringing them onto the path of light.
So in a sense, if we could just manufacture this, the key is to have the emptiness not be distorted at all by the emotion, so that the emotion comes up, but it doesn't dilute us, and then it dissolves back.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You recognize the emotion, and then you liberate the emotion.
Thank you.
We are emotional beings. It is part of our nature to be that. So yes, so we let these come up to fruition. Then we put them on the path, and then you liberate them, just like you said.
Thank you. I was trying to articulate that somewhere, and I needed to get a Lance checkup.
Yeah. So It's so practical,
It's a mindfulness exercise.
of course. Yeah, it's all mindfulness. Okay, so let's move on to the next. Then we're on page 21, page 22. Om Ah Hum. In the southern channel branch of one's heart is Ratnasambhava. In blissful union with Mamaki, yellow and radiant, holding a jewel and a bell, seated cross-legged, symbolizing the union of radiance and emptiness, amidst the mass of light, radiating the pristine cognition of sameness. To the right is the yellow Samantabhadra, holding a grain sheath and a bell. To the left, yellow Akasagarbha, holding a sword and a bell. And to the front is yellow Malya, holding a garland and seated with one leg extended and the other drawn in. And to the rear is yellow Dupa, holding an incense, also seated with one leg extended and the other drawn in. So here are the 6 deities of the Ratna family, the mother and father images, and the 2 brothers and sisters each that are surrounding us and guiding us to liberation. It's all within ourselves. It's recognizing this, that the wisdom and skillful means that what each of these represent are the tools that we use for our liberation, to bring those emotions onto the path and to be able to neutralize them with these tools. So going back to this text, it says the pristine cognition of sameness, of equanimity. This is the wisdom of equanimity, that all things are the same. It's all phenomenal. Okay, so then the prayer. It says, to you, the 6-fold principle and encircling deities of the Ratna family, I bow down, make offerings, take refuge and pray. As soon as we, the deceased, die and begin to transmigrate, at that very moment, when the visions of the intermediate state of reality dawn, and we, the deceased, roam alone in cyclic existence, driven by a mass of light, radiating the mirror-like pristine cognition. To the right is white, oh, excuse me, wrong page. Sorry, I got my page mixed up. As soon as we, the deceased, die and begin to transmigrate, at that very moment when the visions of the intermediate state of reality dawn, and we, the deceased, roam alone in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated pride, may the transcendent Lord Ratnasambhava draw us forward, leading us on a path of radiant yellow light, which is the pristine cognition of sameness. May the Supreme Consort Mamaki support us from behind, and thus encircled, may we be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. I want to ask, where is the intermediate state of reality? What is that?
Here and now.
We're talking about the Bardo of reality. We're talking about when we go through the Bardo of death, and now we're in the Bardo of reality. So if we can actualize that now in this life, that's great. That's what we want to be able to do. But we're being introduced to this in the in the Bardo Thodol when we die. So now we're trying to make that real for ourselves, to actualize that in this life. So in that way, Michael is correct. But for most of us, it's still a vicarious experience. It's something that we've read. It's something that we've heard. But yet, it can be actualized. We can have experience with that. We can realize that.
So it's speaking about the here and now without our obscurations and delusions and other biases.
Correct. It's being a living Buddha. Okay. So each one of these is showing a path to be able to do that. So that mandala that we were referring to before, any one of those are a vehicle to take us to enlightenment. Okay, so now the middle page 23. Om Ah Hum. In the western channel branch of one's heart is Amitabha, in blissful union with Pandaravasini, red and radiant, holding a lotus and a bell, seated cross-legged, symbolizing the union of radiance and emptiness amidst a mass of light, radiating the pristine cognition of discernment. To the right is the red Avalokiteshvara, holding a lotus and a bell. To the left is red Manjushri, holding a sword and a bell. To the front is red Gita, holding a gong and seated with one leg extended and the other drawn in. And to the rear is red Aloka, holding a butter lamp and also seated with one leg extended and the other drawn in. So here is the visualization of the Padma family, the Lotus family, Amitabha family. So we've got the four brothers and sisters, and then we got the mother and father in front and behind of us. And the pristine cognition of discernment, of being able to understand and prioritize what it is that we are going to pay attention to. So this is the wisdom of discriminating awareness. Discriminating awareness. And for many of us, it is this Buddha Amitabha, that is the most accessible to us. It is the easiest for us to comprehend and to stabilize. This is why we use Amitabha as the point of transference of consciousness in the poa. When we are transferring our consciousness when we die to go to Amitabha, but it could be to any of the others. But for the uninitiated, or for those who don't have a strong connection with one of the other Buddhas, Amitabha is the simplest to be able to recall. So that's why that's used. So then the prayer on page 24. To you, the sixfold principle and encircling deities of Padmasambhava, I bow down, make offerings, take refuge, and pray. As soon as we, the deceased, die and begin to transmigrate, at that very moment, when the visions of the intermediate state of reality dawn, and we, the deceased, roam alone in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated attachment, may the transcendent Lord Amitabha draw us forward, leading us on a path of radiant red light, which is the pristine cognition of discernment. May the Supreme Consort, Pandaravasini, support us from behind, and thus encircled, may we be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. So here, these prayers can be recited as many times as you want. This is your practice. You can sit there and you can read the introductory part and you can say, come to this part right here and read this and do a mile around with it. You can do 5 or 6 recitations, if you like, whatever it takes to help you to stabilize this. And we go over this over and over and over again. And this is how you get to be the embodiment of this. And you begin to have breakthrough. You begin to have crossing over, where now you are the light. You are the deity. This is how it's done. It's not done by just reading it and then processing it and thinking it's going to be there when you need it. It becomes a point of faith. It becomes a point of who you are. It becomes the essence of your light. So this one was the pristine cognition of discernment. We already talked about that. So now, Om Ahong, the bottom of page 24. Om Ahong, in the northern channel branch of one's heart is Amagoga City. In blissful union with Samayatara, green and radiant, holding a crossed vajra and a bell, seated cross-legged, symbolizing the union of radiance and emptiness amidst the mass of light, radiating the pristine cognition of accomplishment. To the right is green Sarvanavarana Vishkabin, holding a book and a bell. To the left is green Vajrapani, holding a vajra and a bell. To the front is green Ganda, holding a conch and seated with one leg extended and the other drawn in. And to the rear is green Narti, holding a food offering and also seated with one leg extended and the other drawn in. So this is radiating the light of accomplishment. Amagog City is the wisdom, the all-accomplishing wisdom. The all-accomplishing wisdom is what this represents. All things are here. It's all accomplished. It's our being able to recognize that and to find our place in that, to find our balance in that, the sameness in all of that. The prayer is to you, the sixfold principle and encircling deities of the karma family. I bow down, make offerings, take refuge and pray. As soon as we, the deceased, die and begin to transmigrate, at that very moment, when the visions of the intermediate state of reality dawn, and we, the deceased, roam alone in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated envy, may the transcendent Lord Amagog City draw us forward, leading us on a path of radiant green light, which is the pristine cognition of accomplishment. May the Supreme Consort, Samayatara, support us from behind, and thus encircled, may we be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. So in each one of these prayers, it says, we, the deceased, roam alone in cyclic existence. So what does that cyclic existence mean? I know it's a basic, simple question with a simple answer. What is it? What is cyclic existence?
Samsara. Life and death.
Well, the cycle that we've been, how many times have we been born? How many times have we died? How many cycles have we gone through of this to get to where we are now? The cyclic existence that we go through. How many cycles do we go through in our lifetime? We can see it in our lifetime, in this lifetime. If you look, if you take time to contemplate your life and think about what it was to be an infant. Think what it was to be a toddler. Think of what it was to be a grammar school child. Think of what it was to be a teenager. and what it was to be a 20-something and a 30-something and a 40-something, etc. And you see that these cycles go around, that there's this 10, 11-year cycle that we go through. And situations occur on each of these cycles that are the same. They mean different things to us because of our level of being able to recognize them. Some of these things we can recognize very early in our lives. And sometimes people will say, oh, that child, he's old beyond his years. He may be 7 or 8 years old, but he's like an old man or an old woman, the wisdom that they have. But then there's other situations where people, they might be 50 or 60 years old, still acting like a child, who haven't learned the lessons of what it was when they were 8 or 9 years old. So it's all part of this cyclic existence, and to recognize this in this life and be able to then take that the next step and expand it to be able to say, oh, we've had these many lives before us, and likely many lives in front of us. We can't do anything about the lives that we had before us. We can control the life that we have now, and we can aspire to the life that we wish to have for in the future. That's the beauty. That is what it is to be a human being, that we have change. So I'm going to leave it here for now. So has this been helpful? Can you see, the linkage with what we've done so far in the Bardo Thodol, where we can go back and we can do some research? You can look at the appendix in the Gourmet Dorje book. You can look at the mandalas that I've sent to you all. So there's plenty of places, for reference to bring all this together. If there's anything that you think you need that we can help you with, let me know what it is. And we'll do our best to make it available to you to help you to understand this. But it requires your contemplation. It requires your work to put this together. If this Bardo Thodol is just a means to be able to familiarize you with what the Bardo Thodol is, and you have no aspiration to do the practices and everything, that's fine too. I understand. And it's not a problem, for any of us, but for those who want to make a practice out of this, then we'll do everything we can to help. We do this all in our own time. What is easy for any one of us may not be so easy for somebody else. Not to say that it's difficult, but just to say that maybe they're just not ready for it. They don't have the karma for it. There's a lot of different factors that can involve it. There's no discrimination. There's no judgment about it. Everybody has their own time. It's a blessing to receive these teachings and to have these tools and this book and so on to be support, to have support, but we apprehend it in our own time. Okay, any comments or questions?
Lance, I have a question.
Yes.
I think you probably commented on this when we were the first time going through the complete peaceful deities, but I notice here that a number of the bodhisattvas, and they all, I think, are female bodhisattvas, have one leg extended and one drawn in. And I'm trying to remember, I have some sense, but I could be wrong. Does this have something to do with readiness to stand up and move in. Yeah, that's right. Okay. And is there a reason it seems to be associated mainly, if not exclusively, with the female bodhisattvas?
You want to run out of the way.
It's like a mother,
What
Jumping
did
up.
you say, William?
but I didn't hear what William said.
I think he was teasing.
Oh, well, I think of it as a mother who is springing to their children's need. You know, the wisdom, the wisdom is the mother aspect. The skillful means is the father aspect. So that wisdom is always ready there, and the skillful means is always ready there. But the skillful means, you've got to, that's the compassion. You've got to you got to work for the wisdom. But I think, maybe the lamas would have a more, detailed explanation for that, but that's my feeble one.
That was helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Two participants have raised hands. Michael?
Yes, a sort of a cosmetics question. I notice that the sages in the lower realms seem to have claws on their on their feet and their hands, really
The
long.
sages do?
Yes. Is this symbolic of the Buddhas being actually the Buddhas emanating into the lower realms?
Where are claws? I don't see claws. Maybe it's just the way they didn't do a very good job of doing the anatomy of their hands and feet, but they're not.
I mean,
claws.
they have really long fingernails and toenails.
Well, that may be true.
Yeah.
That may be
So
true.
that's meaningless though, huh?
Somebody, I don't have an explanation for it. I would look at it. I'd look at it just as the expression of the artist.
Yeah.
But if there's a deeper meaning to it, I don't know. But if you notice, many of the Rinpoches, the really high practitioners, they've all got very long fingernails. I can't say that I've noticed their toenails, but many of them have long fingernails. And it's part of their ritual tools, that when they're making offerings and so on, they're like little, spoons that they would bring up substances and make blessings and so on like that. It's part of their ritualistic tool bag. So maybe it's a carryover from that.
Right.
Interesting observation, though. William, you had a question, or Bhavani?
I had a kind of a statement that this course and that is very unique to me. This is the first time I've ever gone through a course like this, and like I read the book
Living and Dying.
Tibetan
Tibetan Book. Yeah.
Tibetan Book of the Dead, and it's got, I guess it's got almost all of this in it, but then it just doesn't have the follow through of this particular learning process that we've got going.
Yeah.
It seems to be like we get more fired up with the individual things. And I think you're doing a bang up job. Yeah, I do.
Right. Thank you for the visual. I think I'm just banging against the walls or something.
Well, with some of us, it might be that way.
I know sometimes I get a little I get a little powerful with it. Well, I'll take that as a compliment. Thank you very much. And, but it comes from, the commentary that Gourmet Dorje has in his book, plus other commentaries that I've read, plus teachings that I've received and so on. And plus the experiences, this was the very first Tibetan Buddhist book that I read, back in 1970 something. And so I've had a fair amount of experience with it and a lot of meditation with it. And, so that's what is flowing forward, flowing out. Okay, so let's do our dedications. If anybody has anything else you'd like to say before we do our dedications. Okay, so Debbie, will you please?
Emaho. In the center is the marvelous Buddha Amitabha of boundless light. On the right side is Avalokiteshvara, the Lord of great compassion. On the left is Vajrapani, the Lord of powerful means. All are surrounded by limitless Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Immeasurable peace and happiness is the blissful pure land of Dewachan. When I and all beings pass from samsara, may we be born in Dewachan without taking samsaric rebirth. May I have the blessing of meeting Amitabha face to face by the power and blessings of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions. May I attain this aspiration without hindrance. Tayatapensadriya awa bodhanaya soha. Tayatapensadriya awa bodhanaya soha. Tayatapensadriya awa bodhanaya soha. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. By this virtue, may I achieve all knowingness by defeating all enemies' confusion. May all who travel on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of suffering. As Manjushri the warrior realized the ultimate state, and as did Samantabhadra, I will follow in their path and fully dedicate all the merit for all sentient beings.
Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. 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 Om Mani Padme Hum Shri 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 Om Mani Padme Hum 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 Shri Om Ah Om Ah Hum Om Ah Hum. May my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones for the benefit of all beings. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Lance.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Lance.